So, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Raza and I'm glad to have Babongile with us today, the regional manager for Staffordshire University, UK. How are you, Babs?
I'm good, thank you.
So, may I call you Babs in the
Yes, you
podcast?
can. It's a lot easier to call me Babs. Yeah.
So, you're smiling right now. So, how did you find Pakistan?
So far, I've really loved it. It's been different to the perception I think we get in the UK. I've learned about Pakistani hospitality, so it's been very welcoming. And each city is different. So I've only so far been to Lahore and Karachi, and I'll be in Islamabad later in the week, and that's going to give me a real vibe of Pakistan.
Were you being able to digest that spicier food or taste it?
No. I run away from spicy food, so I'm having to just learn how to just take small portions of spicy food. I'm not gonna lie, I've only eaten Asian food like Japanese.
So, would like to tell our audience about Staffordshire University, that how do they work, what kind of faculty do they have, and what kind of portfolios do they have with respect to academic programs?
Okay, so for Staffordshire University, we're actually a young university in terms of we're just over 100 years old. So for us, we focus really on 5 different school areas. So we have an Institute of Education, we have a Digital Institute, and then we have 3 schools which are focusing on health, justice, security, and then we also have a design and technology area as well. So we have degrees that fall underneath all of those different school areas. So for students, essentially when you're looking at Staffordshire, you're looking for more modern degrees, degrees that are going to be more practical than theoretical and kind of really help you understand how to do what it is you're being taught to help you with the transition into industry as well.
What kind of student mix do you have? You might be having different students from different ethnicities, races, right? So what kind of mix do you have? Do you have Pakistani students? Do you have Asian students? A cultural mix do you have?
Yes, we do. We have quite a big cultural mix, as in we're building it in comparison to a lot of other universities. We've started now to focus on international students. We used to be quite home focused. So we've got close to 15,000 students. And when you add up everyone else, we're getting close to 2,000 across all the different study levels. So in terms of international, we do have Pakistani students. They're, I would say, our second highest population currently. And then we've got students from other South Asian countries alongside areas in Africa, as well as the Middle East and a little bit of Europe.
So once you deal students, like a student, for example, a student walks in your office, right, and he deals or she deals you as a student counselor. What kind of things do you guide him with respect to a career progression and also for choosing a career? For example, if a person is confused about choosing psychology, business, computing, how do you just funnel his or her ideas to one point?
Yeah, so you tend to get 2 types of students. You either have someone who has a degree in mind, but they don't necessarily have the career in mind. They just know that they want to study chemistry, for example. Or you have someone who is kind of the opposite. They have an idea of a career, but they don't know what they need to study to get to that career. So you're counseling them in those different ways. The most important thing for any students, just think about, what do you want to do? Is there something that interests you, something you can see yourself doing for at least a 2 to 3 to 5 year period? And then you'd study what you have an interest in, because if you don't have a passion in the subject, it's going to be difficult to get through 3 years of studying that one subject. So that's what we spend time kind of discussing with a student and helping them understand, with what you have, these are the different ways to go in. So for example, if a student is studying a local curriculum here, they'll typically need a foundation first, and then from a foundation they can go into a bachelor's degree. In cases if they don't go in, they might decide to do like a HNC, a HND, and then they'll just go in for the final year of a degree. So that's the normal path you'd find for students that I meet in this region, and then we'd help them figure out which degree and which entry point they can come into based on what they have. So there's always an option, there's always a way through it.
Okay, so Babs, students these days are more conscious about getting their skills polished, right? And if I've gone through some academic literature and I've seen that universities are too much focused on theory, right? And they teach books and books and books, so many books, right? Throughout their 4 semesters, or 6 semesters, or 8 semesters. So if we talk about Staffordshire University, how do they embed skill set with the degree and the theory?
So again, it's really about the degrees that we offer. So we don't offer as many traditional degrees as some older institutions. So we're really focusing on those degrees like gaming, computer science, esports, animation. We even have a cartoon and comic arts. So architecture. So these are all degrees that are practical. You have to practically do the skills. You have to actually draw. You have to take life art classes in order to be able to deliver what the degree asks for. So that's very different if you don't just sit in the classroom and learn the theory of it. So for us, we're focusing on degrees that help students actively, while learning, do what the degree is titled or what it's called, which is different, because when you enter into industry, you already know how to do everything. No one's having to teach you that because you've been doing it, and it's facilities wise. So we've actually got one of the only we're one of the first institutions actually to have an esports arena at our London campus. And then we've also got a lot of high-tech computing. We've got closed networks so students can practice cybersecurity. So we've developed facilities. That's a big thing for us.
Okay, so a question, which parents had and students normally have with us, right? You deal with many students, and if we talk being very candid, what kind of a thing that students lack these days in their behavior, in their analytical skills and decisional skills, that as a student counselor, as an advisor, you feel like this should be embedded while they are in schools, in their colleges, or even during parenting?
Yeah, I think it's definitely students are lacking proactivity. They need to be proactive in it. And I think there's this expectation that the university is going to do everything for you. And it's something that has to be clear that it's not something that's different for international UK students. It's the same thing. Even when I went to uni, I didn't realize how much I'm going to have to do for myself and how much independence I'm also going to gain. So students kind of need to get themselves, before they've even joined university, to start thinking independently and actively looking and going out and researching and making decisions. I think that's one of the things that most students aren't good at, is making decisions, because family, parents, teachers have made decisions for them. And for the first time at 18, you're being told you make the decision. And that's something that students need to learn for sure.
Yeah, I was having a discussion previously on a discussion. So there was a training going on, and I said to them that what is the first word that comes to your mind when I speak alphabet? And I said C for, and everybody said cat, right? So this was the thing that went into their mind. So during parenting, what parents do, just a humble message to the parents, that of course they discourage students. You are not doing this right. You are a failure. When this goes in their mind, they get depressive in their mind, their heart, they lose their hopes, right? So this is what Staffordshire University is doing very good, that of course they counsel students, they guide students. Okay, so if I would like to take the audience to the journey a student may have in Staffordshire University, can you just guide them, if a person is having level 3 or IFI, International Foundation year, what kind of the pathways do you offer to a student with different kind of backgrounds?
Yeah, so when someone has a foundation or a level 3 qualification, they're now qualified to then apply for a degree in the UK. So every level of the degree, it's a 3-year degree program. So year 1 is level 4, year 2 is level 5, and year 3 is level 6. So you're just going up in the levels of the system. So you would then come in at level 4 and you'd do your 3-year degree to then either go and work, or you'd go on to a master's, which is a level 7. So it's pretty straightforward and outlined. If you were to study in Scotland, they have a slightly different leveling system that you can always find on the university websites, and that would at least let you know which level you go into. But that's the easiest way. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so just to let Pakistani audience know, like, first we have already explained many times in the podcast, right? Level 3 is the first foundation year. Basically, you need to have before the university, and level 4 is the first year of the university. Level 5 is the second year. Level 6 is the last year normally, because it's a 3 years bachelor's in UK, right? So, okay, so if I ask you a very candid question, what is the nuisance value UK universities have? For example, if I've been given a choice to have master's or bachelor's in Turkey, Malaysia, Canada, USA, why should we choose UK education? And why should a person from Asia, maybe from Pakistan, should go to UK? One thing is, like, we do have bigger population of Asians in UK, right? So it's easier to like gel in. What can be the nuisance value in the education a student should look for during the degree?
Yeah, so most international students, they're taking their degree because they're going to come home with it, or some of them are looking to become a global citizen. So when you study a UK degree, there's the reputation attached to education in the UK in general. So historically, the UK has been seen as having a high quality of education. And so when students take their UK degree back to their home country, depending where they're from, it does help them with gaining jobs in multinational corporations a little bit easier than potentially having only studied the degree in their home country. It's also because they also have a more worldly experience and they have a better understanding of all the customers they're going to interact with when they're in a multinational corporation. Another thing is just the transition. By coming to the UK, at least in the sense of Pakistan, a lot of things are really similar. Like our laws are similar. I think our military systems are similar. We have a lot of things due to colonization, unfortunately, but there are a lot of countries around the world where it's similar, and that means that you're also able to transition your degree to other countries where, due to colonization and things of that nature, it's very similar as well. So it just helps you at least being able to find the equivalency as well for your degree.
Okay. And another fear that normally students have is fear of failure.
Oh, yeah.
And the fear of failure is attached to loss of prestige. So I've got a rapid fire with you right now. I'm going to give you some connotations and you're going to rate them from 1 to 10.
Okay.
1 is the least, 10 is the highest, right?
Okay.
So what kind of the characteristics a student should have, you should rate it, right? For example, if I say communication skills, you say maybe 8 out of 10, it's very important, right? So I'm going to pop few pointers to you, right? So we're going to play a rapid fire.
Okay.
So analytical skills. A student coming to UK.
I would say you need that at least on an 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
Communication skills.
That for me is a 10.
Collegiality and camaraderie with other ethnicities.
Again, it's very high. It's an 8 or 9.
8 or 9?
Yeah.
Okay. And the fear of failure.
The fear of failure, I would say that's low. You don't need that. I think the problem is, if you don't mind me just saying, even for myself when I studied, I had such a big fear of failure because I thought if I messed up at this point, it was over. And then once I actually came into working within education, I realized I had all these options that no one ever told me about. Funnily enough, international students get told about the options more so than a UK student. And there's always a pathway in order for you to either finish your degree or at least get onto a master's program. And even when it comes to like reputable institutions, I know loads of people who said I wanted to go to Oxford. They didn't get the grades on their undergrad. They didn't get their grades in A levels or what they studied. They do an undergraduate degree and a master's at Oxford. So there's always a way to get to your goal. It's just you have to push yourself and put yourself forward and find the information and ask the questions. So the fear of failure comes when we don't know. But once you know, you realize, oh, there was nothing for me to be afraid of. So that shouldn't be a thing. But I would say that's not important at all. Yeah. And it's something you should try and just crush.
Okay. English language.
English language, oh, that's really important. It's like, again, 8 or 9. Okay,
and finding a place to live.
Finding a place to live, I would say it's still high, like a 7. I would say it's like a 7.
Okay, and having a part-time job, right? You know, what kind of...
Technically, students are here to learn, but the part-time job is good for the skill set. So again, you can put that on a 7 priority list.
You should
you can put it on a 7 because I know different students have
and the last thing, right? Homesickness.
Homesickness. Oh, that depends. Each student is different. Maybe like a 6, because I know some students who haven't been home in 3 years. They're perfectly okay with it. Then there are others who go home every vacation.
Okay, so in that, like, you know, for example, I would like to ask you questions related to Pakistan as well, right? And then I come back again for a closing remark. You've gone through Pakistan. This is your first trip. No, I'm extremely happy to see you smiling, at least in the podcast, or with me maybe. But of course, considering Pakistani culture, seeing the people here, right? And of course, there's hostile media effect, right? We see media portraying many other things, like on the negative connotations Pakistan may have. We are like into terrorism. We are into maybe inflation. We are into so much price hikes. We are into stability, no stability politically at the government level. So what kind of the taboos you had in the mind, and now you broke them, you know, while meeting people, traveling all across in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. So would you just summarize your trip all across, and then how did you find Pakistan?
I think the maybe preconceived notions I had were based on what's happening in the media at the moment. So it's definitely been just thinking about safety. Safety is always a big issue when any person travels, just thinking potentially it's unsafe and I wouldn't be able to do anything normally or go anywhere. But I've actually realized it's not like that. Everything is really calm. It's very chilled. And like I said, each city is different and people are really hospitable. And it's been really fun in that sense, as long as you're willing to put yourself out there. So I'd actually recommend people come to Pakistan and see for themselves. Once you have the experience for yourself, you start to realize, oh, it's not as bad as people are saying it is, because the media is only giving you a small snapshot of the most intense things that are happening, not what's happening every day all across the country, because you've got a large population as well. It's not the small snapshot.
So while you gone through a campus visit right now, of course you've seen our incubation side, and of course we focus normally on skill-based education, right? If this is the nuisance in Pakistan. As an HR professional, people say me that we do not have jobs. But I always say that we do have jobs, we do not get the right skill set to be employed. So what kind of the thing you feel that, of course, we can embed in students? And can you just shed some light on the skill-based education? How much is it important?
I think it's very important. And part of it is they don't have jobs is what students feel like, but at the same time, they don't know what skills they need to get, because before picking education, they haven't looked at the skills the job needs. So that's where someone has to actually take the time before they start to do any type of form of study, is realize the job I want, the job specification actually says I need to know how to do A, B, C, D, E. Does what I'm going to study teach me those things and more? Not just those things by themselves, but they should be an and more to it. And one of the big things in the UK we always talk about is transferable skills. People don't realize just because you do a computer science degree, you don't have to just go into the area of computing, because you're going to learn also transferable skills that you can move into other industries. So that's also really important. So any type of education. So with your hub, you're teaching students the skills before they actually graduate and before they move into like a top-up degree. So they're learning what sometimes a home student might not have learned, because they're not actively every day using their skill set. They're only using them in the classroom. So that's really important as well.
Okay. So what kind of progression do you see for the people studying here in HNs, right? In HNDs, right? We impart skill-based education. So what kind of progression does Staffordshire University offer to those students studying here?
So progression-wise, most of the students studying here would most probably complete the HND. So they'll be able to come in for what we call a top-up, which is just the final year of the degree. So they'll come in for the final year, usually starting either in January or September, depending on which degree they want to go into. And then after completing the final year, they'll have the ability to either go and study a master's, or they can try and stay in the UK as well to try and get work. So there's also that aspect, or they can return back here and develop any companies they have. So one thing our university actually has is we have an innovation center. So we invested 1.3 million into 2 levels where small, medium enterprises can come on and rent out space to do their projects. So they can take what they're doing here, because you guys have got space where students are actively working, that they can bring it and still do it also in the UK. So they don't lose that, even though they've changed countries as well.
Babs, another question, right? That comes to us very much, of course, that of course everybody sees their journey throughout, of course, their career and progression. So if a person does a top-up in UK after 2 years HNs in Pakistan, what kind of visa requirements do they have for PSW, or what kind of visas do they get after that, completing that top-up?
So what you're usually looking at is what we call the post-study work visa. So a student is coming to study, and then once completing it, they have 2 years to which they can enter into the world of work. And what you're trying to do during that post-study period is either you already have a company that you've already managed to make links with, or you're finding a company to make links with to build a skill set. Either you're going to come back home after that, or you might find a UK-based company to sponsor you. I know some students decide that after a post-study work visa, they now have the work experience that opens up Europe to them as well. So there's a lot of different pathways that students can take after doing the post-study work visa.
That is great. That must be honey to the ears, listening for the students, right? But okay, so you've gone through the campus, right? You've gone through the facilities we provide, and I'm extremely glad to see that you resonate the same facilities there, because I'm glad to have or we are glad to have offering same incubation center, and you're offering innovation center for the people who would like to be in entrepreneurs. And of course there are two kind of people in, of course, their work. One would like to have jobs, one would like to be entrepreneurs. So you and us both are providing two streams to students. We are imparting skills, and then we are providing incubation, you're providing innovation center, which is similar. So we've gone through the facilities of International Center for Excellence in Karachi. So how do you rate them, and you have seen the labs, you have seen the classrooms, you have seen the facilities. So would you like to summarize and comment on that?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm quite impressed with the facilities you guys have, because one of the things that impresses me the most actually is the fact that your students are able to practically use the skills you're teaching them, and they're able to work as freelancers and to build agencies. That's things that most UK students wouldn't think about doing. It's outside of the box. We tend to focus just on one area in terms of just studying, whereas you've mixed the two together, and so you're getting a more well-rounded graduate at the end. So that's really impressive, especially across the 5 floors you guys have as well. So that's the most impressive thing. Yeah. So
into the last concluding remarks, what message would you like to give to the students coming to UK with having different preconceived notions in their mind, of course? What kind of message you would like to give them for being catchy about few things, and being cautious about few things, and being confident about few things?
Okay. Catchy, cautious, and confident. I think the main thing is that you need to engage with the institution you're coming to study. You have to do your research. One of the most important things is don't be afraid of the university. Don't be afraid of the academic staff. It's not like being in high school or anything like that. We are there to help students come to a decision that fits them. We're essentially there for you. So really you can have those open conversations with us, and we can help you with that process. And then just being cautious is, I would say, be cautious of, I guess we all hear stories, just like I had to be cautious of the stories I heard before I came here. You have to experience it for yourself, because everyone's experience is completely different, and you can't paint it all with like one brush. So be cautious of that. And if ever you can, do come and visit, try and travel if you can, to give you a better idea. And then what was the third one? It was like catchy. I think if, based on what is taught here and what ICE does, if you're looking to really build yourself into a world-class entrepreneur, then you would definitely come to an institution like Staffordshire, because facilities-wise, we have everything that can help you with that process, and even just support-wise, we also have that, and you can really start to expand almost maybe tenfold on what you're already doing here. So yeah, that would be the catchy part.
So Babs, feeling like a change ambassador.
Yeah.
Or maybe a representative to Pakistan, right? What message would you like to give to the world, right? With respect to Pakistanis, and of course the culture, the people, and the passion we do have with respect to education and everything. A simple message, summarized message to the world, right?
Okay.
From Babongile.
A summarized message, I would say to anybody who does maybe a similar role, or anyone who's just looked at Pakistan and considered come. I would definitely say you have to experience it for yourself. It's almost difficult to describe how each city is different and how the people are as well. I've personally had a great time, and I look forward to seeing more of the country as well.
And one thing we're going to say together, we call it Pakistan Zindabad. So Zindabad is long live Pakistan. So we on a count of 3, we're going to say Pakistan Zindabad.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? Right?
Okay, go.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Pakistan Zindabad.